I'm Amy Morgan, the feature writer for the Marriage Initiative, and I'm delighted today to introduce you to Kari Trent Stageberg. You might recognize her maiden name, Trent, as she's the daughter of renowned relationship expert Dr. John Trent, co-author with Gary Smalley of best-selling The Blessing, Giving the Gift of Unconditional Love and Acceptance. Kari now works closely with her father at their Strong Families Ministry, running day-to-day operations, coaching, podcasting, and writing books. In her newest, The Merge for Marriage, turning frustration and disunity into closeness and commitment, she shares with newly married couples how to overcome the pressures they face in the modern world. Kari is a domestic violence survivor who encourages others to heal from their past experiences and live an abundant life in Christ. Kari, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. What an honor.
Oh, well, we are just delighted. And, it sounds like you have such a wonderful partnership with your dad, but your relationship with your family wasn't always so congenial. Can you share your story with our marriage champions?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a blessing and an honor getting to work with him, and it's just fun. What a special season. But honestly, I think if you had told either one of us that we were going to be getting to have this time together or get to do ministry together, 15 years ago, I think we both would have laughed in your face and just said, there's absolutely no way that's a reality. But God, right? And so, our story really just quickly was obviously I grew up in a faith-based home, and I'm so thankful to say that I have parents that are the real deal. And there was not a day where I didn't know that I was loved or that there was a God that was crazy about me. But faith is a choice, right? And I know for me, God just felt incredibly abstract. It was kind of hard to just follow somebody blindly without feeling like I had a relationship. And so, long story short, I ended up walking away from faith and family and ended up eloping, shocking my whole family, which is, probably not the best thing to do when you have a dad in marriage and family ministry. And for 5 years, I found myself smack dab in the middle of an abusive relationship. And it was abusive in any way you could possibly imagine. And the Lord really rescued me out of that. But it was really my parents giving me their blessing that gave me permission to move forward when I was ready. They spoke life where they could in the middle of that season. And any of you who have a kid that's walked away from faith, you know how hard those moments can be. They had great boundaries. They spoke life where they could. They prayed like crazy. And, God never stopped fighting for me. And I'm so thankful for the journey of restoration and healing that He has walked our family through since then. And now I'm married to my incredible husband, Joey. We have 2 beautiful miracle baby boys, and I get to do ministry with my dad.
Oh, I just think that is so encouraging. Thank you, first of all, for being transparent and sharing with our marriage champions, because, some of us maybe on, your age and just coming out of that sort of thing and thinking, oh gosh, I've made choices that, hurt my family. Can I be restored? Can I have a place in ministry? And they're just starting to walk forward, hearing what God has for them. So it's encouraging that as the younger generation, they can follow your footsteps. But then there's some of us who are a little older that have adult children like me, and, and to know that prodigal, and to have that encouragement from the other side, to see how God did bring you back and did restore you, and restored not just an okay, you're back to the family where, but to this complete restoration, abundance, how you're working with your dad. And one of the first things you did when you came back to work with him was help him revise The Blessing. It you shared actually published for the first time the year you were born.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
Yes. So talk about that. Tell us about that, how you started, what your role is now at Strong Families.
Yeah, so I'm incredibly blessed to get to be the CEO of Strong Families and to get to serve alongside my dad. And really, our mission is to help imperfect people and imperfect families just like us build great relationships. And that starts with Jesus and then expands out to the people that God has placed in our home and then beyond to those that He has placed in our lives. And so for us, really, the heartbeat has always been that core message of the blessing, that it's God's love and blessing that can get us moving towards others. And then we're able to bless them and create that culture of love and blessing and acceptance that Jesus asked us to really love others like Jesus. And so it was a huge blessing to get to be a part of redoing that, updating that book. It did come out originally the year I was born, which is just so, God is just so cool in how he weaves things together, which is, it was really the blessing that brought me home. And there it was, the year that I was born, and my parents were really having to live it out in different ways, even when it was hard during that season of my life. And then, God's talking about incredible restoration allowed me to be a part of how can we help a new generation of parents and families and individuals learn about this incredibly powerful tool of the blessing. And so my job with that edition was really to say, how do we make this a lifestyle? The blessing was never meant to just be a one-time action. It really is meant to be a lifestyle that we live and choose to do on a daily basis with those that God has placed around us. And what do we do if we didn't get it? How do we bless others when maybe that wasn't a part of our story? And so my job really was to sort of add that practical element and take it from head knowledge into action and do it in a way where it's easy. Because I'm a busy mom. I get it. It's hard. Like, okay, you want me to go do something? How am I going to do, And so really we tried to make it as plug and play. Like, here are 150 easy ways that you could just pick one and go do it today. And then as you start to do that, you really do start to have that heart change of, oh, this doesn't need to be big. These really are small things that I can do consistently to show people that God has placed in my life, that they have value, that I'm going to be there for them, that they have an incredible future ahead, and really get to instill that love and blessing that Jesus has for us in them.
Could you go over the titles? Because you've had your hands on and your fingerprints on several of the newer revisions, and they have a little bit of different application. I know I was looking, on the places where people buy books, because I was interested in one of the newer ones, and I was finding myself getting confused about which was the one I wanted. So could you help us break that down for our marriage champions? Because they have a little bit of a different audience and a different application, and I want them to be able to feel very clear that they know which one they want when they want it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, our core message is the blessing, which is the title of that book. We did just recently release an abridgment. So if reading's not your thing, or you have a Gen X or Gen Zer that's like, I just give me the Cliff's Notes, but still is really powerful, that's called The Power of the Blessing. So those two are blessing centric. And again, you're going to learn about those 5 elements, what they are, and how can we give them to people that we love. We also have a book that came out this past year called Where Do I Go From Here? And that is the process of life mapping, and really, okay, maybe you're going through a transition. Maybe you just have that feeling that, gosh, something needs to change. I don't even know what it is, but I'm stuck. Or, man, I've got a college graduate or a high school graduate or this new thing coming up. Where do I go from here? And so it's a really beautiful, powerful process to walk through that and get to a place where we can say, okay, God, you're able to take me to the future that you have ahead for me. I also wrote a book called The Merge for Marriage. That's all about how do you build, a great relationship in your marriage, strengthen your marriage, create intimacy, and really, really resolve problems that come up instead of just letting things fester and repeat. How do we really actually deal with that? We also have a book called The 2 Sides of Love, which is all about animal personalities. And so those are lions and otters and golden retrievers and beavers, and really understanding not only what are my strengths, but what are the strengths of those that God has placed in my life, and how can I value those strengths, and how can we really bend and come together to become the best team, whether that's a marriage team or a work team or a parent-child team. How can I really lead my kids well, understanding who God has created them to be? And then we have another book called The Language of Love. And that's really all about word pictures and how do I help people understand what I'm trying to say? Because I don't know about you, but sometimes it's like, are we speaking a different language? Or I felt like I communicated that really clearly and they are not getting it. And so it's really, how can we use this powerful biblical tool of word pictures to help not just get to people's heads, but really help them understand the heart of what we're trying to communicate. And those are really our core tools. There is one other one that's really powerful that I did want to mention super quick, and that's called the 2-degree difference. And that is all about making those small, consistent changes, like I talked about. But here's the beautiful thing: regardless of which book of ours that you pick up, they are all based around that core element of the blessing. And really, every resource that my dad has created and everything that I've created so far has been, how do we help people better understand and live out each of those elements of the blessing? And so the animals, for example, is really helping people understand what strengths does somebody have? How do we do it? Genuine commitment. That's really that 2-degree difference. How do we actually walk this out? So each one sort of has a place within the blessing as you go through the resources. So they're all great. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but it's been really fun getting to work on so many projects with my dad, and just seeing the tools and the way that they're able to help and encourage people.
Well, I know for those of us that kind of grew up on the old blessing, I love the little animals. I mean, I know which one I
Yeah.
am, and I'm probably pretty easy for any of our marriage champions can tell, who are familiar. But those are fun. I know in one of your first projects, you said you added some application questions in the blessing book, and maybe you can tell the title again, because I think that's where some of our marriage champions might choose that resource to do with one of their small groups, or that,
Yep.
because you added questions, and I think it has some. Does it have some videos to go along with it? Let's go there, and then I want to talk about life mapping and then the merge.
Yes. So the blessing, absolutely. So that was one of the things that I added into this new edition. So it's actually designed for you to work through. It has individual processing questions and group questions. So it's plug and play for small groups. It's phenomenal. We do have videos that go with it. We're actually in the process of even reshooting some of those with some updated and better content. So that'll be releasing soon as well. But it's a phenomenal resource to have. And again, it really walks you through, hey, here's not only how you can understand it, but how do we really apply it, and how do we process it again if maybe that wasn't a part of our story, because for many of us the blessing wasn't. So it's got all of those tools, and again, we tried to make it really easy for you to plug and play as well.
Well, and one of the things you talk about the blessing is maybe someone like you did get the blessing from your family. Maybe someone didn't, but then something happened and you
Yeah.
feel like, again, whether it's a life circumstance or a choice, you feel like somehow you voided the blessing, or you need a refilling of the blessing.
Yeah.
And there's application for that too, when you kind of need to start over and get re-blessed. And that's a way,
Absolutely.
there's a process for that too in there, right?
Yeah, there is. And there's an entire chapter where I wrote 3 different blessings. One is, hey, I never got it. The second one is, man, I have it, but I maybe need a new one. And so there's 3 different blessings that you can read in there. Like, I know I have it, but bless me as I move forward.
Bless
So
me
it's really
again.
me again, because we can't get it enough, right? And I will tell you, I mean, there is something really life changing about that reminder, or about, for the very first time, maybe reading and understanding those words. In fact, we run book clubs where we actually go through these books with you. We run those once a quarter, which is really fun, and we try to cycle through the different books so that we can cover different topics for people. But our most recent one, we just did the blessing, and there was a woman in our group. She's phenomenal. She was a little bit older, like in her 70s, and she showed up to our blessing group after having read that chapter. And she just said, I got to the second sentence, where it says, you are loved, you are wanted. And she said, and I read out loud, you are wanted. And I just burst into tears. And she was like, I cried for several hours. And she was like, and it was the very first time where I really, really believed that God wanted me, and that maybe other people did too. And you could just see, it was like she had lost like 1,000 pounds off of her. Her posture was better. She was beaming. It was really this moment of transformation for her. And that's not us, that's the Lord. And that's what his blessing can do for us. And then because of that, we're able to then go bless those around us.
Oh, I just think about in the prayer of Jabez, oh Lord, bless me indeed. Like you
Yeah.
said, we can't get it enough, and it is transformational. So well, those book clubs sound really interesting. How do you sign up for that?
Yeah, they're on our website. If you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get notified for those, but we do post all the details on our website. We're taking a quick break for summer, but we'll start back up again in August, September with our next book club.
Oh, that sounds really fun, especially, for people who are busy that would are readers and would long to be part of a book and to be a part of a book club with you and your dad. I mean, how
Yeah,
cool is that? That's pretty darn great.
it's
Oh,
been really fun. We've had wonderful groups of people, and it's just been amazing to see the connections that have come from that too. So
yeah. Oh, well, that you got me inspired. I'm sure that's speaking to some of our marriage champions there too. Well,
yeah.
let's talk about life mapping and where do we go from here? What even is that? I know you and I talked about it, and I'm really excited about that with young adults, and particularly it's been applicable in your life. But
Yeah.
let's start from the beginning.
Yeah. So life mapping really is a biblical process, and it's based around in Revelation, where God is talking to the church of Ephesus, and he's telling them things that they did well. He praises them, but then he tells them, "But I hold this against you, that you have left your first love." And then he gives them three things that they need to do. They need to repent. They need to remember. They need to repent, like remember from where you've fallen, repent, and do the deeds you did at first. And so, really, this process is a step by step guide of going, okay, where have I been? What has happened in my life story? And really, what life mapping is a powerful way of seeing all the pictures of our life story from different angles. And I kind of like to talk about it like a diamond. So, if you look at a diamond, you're looking at the same stone, but you can see different facets. And each direction that you change it, you can maybe see something a little bit different. And that's really what life mapping is. We're looking at your life story from all these different angles. And we're walking through, where have you been? Where are you today? And where do you want to be? And really, what's keeping you from getting there?
Yeah.
Because for most of us, there's something that's keeping us stuck. Maybe we don't have all the information we need to move forward. Maybe there's something in our past that's telling us, you know what, you can't really do that. Maybe there's something we haven't dealt with. Maybe there's fear. And once we realize, okay, if I put some steps in place, I don't need to be afraid of that. I actually can move forward. So it's a really powerful and practical way of, again, saying, okay, how can I remember where I've been, repent of anything that's maybe holding me back, or really deal with issues if there's something holding me back. And then how do I move forward and do the deeds that really brought me closer to the Lord and what he has for me?
So there's the book that kind of
Yeah.
outlines the process, and then if someone wants some help, they can connect through the website and connect with the coaches. You do coaching, your dad does coaching, and then you guys train life mapping coaches too.
Yes.
And that's something that our marriage champions might be interested in, is learning how to be a coach. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So we do train life mapping coaches. We also train blessing coaches, and we train strengths coaches. So on the animals. So we have those three coaching options. It's through our partnership with ICCI, the International Christian Coaching Institute. They're phenomenal. And so it's a 10-hour, each one of those modules is a 10-hour course. And so you really understand, what is it? How do I help somebody else walk through it? Everything behind it. It's a really powerful experience. But then you're able to really help coach others as maybe they're going through that. And so it's definitely a way to go deeper into the book. And then again, we do offer coaching, or we can connect you with another certified coach that is doing that as well. If you want more help, or maybe going, hey, okay, I can kind of see where maybe I'm stuck, but what is the plan? I need some help with that plan piece. Or I just want someone to walk me through my life map, walk me through and help me process that.
I would think that would be so applicable. If you have a big decision to make, maybe it's a move, maybe it's a job change, maybe it's something interpersonal. You had mentioned, a woman that was really having trouble connecting because of a tragedy in her past, and have that
Yep.
person, to read the book, understand what the life mapping is, and then just have a couple sessions with a coach that could kind of help you over that hump. And do you have to have like a PhD or a master's degree to sign up for these classes?
Oh no, not at all. I mean, these are really for life coaches or lay leaders, or anyone that is going, you know what, I want to go deeper with this material. We make it like our heart is we want to make it biblical and we want to make it practical. So how do we help you understand it, but also how do you do it? And so we really have tried to make it as easy as possible. I promise it's not complicated, but it is a phenomenal tool. And one of the other bonus tools that you get with that is this incredible thing called storyboarding. And my dad has used life mapping with us through every major life change. He's also used it with anything that's going on. He storyboards everything out for us, and it's something that you can use, like you said, for a move. It's something that you can use to help you write your next book. It's something you can use to help you, okay, we've got all these people's schedules. How do we consolidate it so that we understand where everyone in our family needs to be and when? All of those things. And so it's a really phenomenal practical tool that is designed to be used, not just understood at a high level, but really how do we actually use it?
Well, I know you said that it was very, very helpful. Your family was in a tragic accident last summer, and your dad immediately flew in and grabbed his markers and his whiteboard, just even to help you organize what all was it? All the people that wanted to bring you meals or drive for you. You had so many moving parts and a newborn.
So many moving pieces. Yeah. And we did, it was a horrible accident. We were driving on the freeway and a kid was street racing and hit the back of our car, and we flew into the median and rolled multiple times on I-5 with my husband and my almost 2-year-old and our 1-month-old at the time. And so, praise God, my two boys were okay, but I didn't know if my husband was alive when they put him in the ambulance. And it was a really, obviously not a great, not a great thing to have happen to our family, but God has been so kind and so wonderful. But yeah, my dad flew up as soon as I called him. He was on a plane, as quick as he could get there. And he used that. And it was everything from, okay, we've got all these doctor's appointments. Here's all the stuff that the attorney needs. Here's all the things that all the people that have brought us meals or want to, people that have offered to help with kid care, people that have offered to help drive Joey to places, because obviously he couldn't drive for quite some time. And so it was really just a way of saying, here's all of this going on in the middle of chaos, and here's a way to make it so that we can at least see all the pieces and then put them into a process where we can do something about it instead of just drowning. Because for any of you who have been through something like that, you're just drowning. It's survival. You're trying to stay in survival mode, and that really allowed us to not only get through it, but to create a process where we could begin to manage the next season for our family.
And that happens for couples too, as they think about their relationship. It's a way to go through things with a couple, and they can see their relationship process and make a plan for how they want to move forward.
Definitely. Yep, we
Yeah.
would do that as a family. We would do a family life map growing up, where it was, hey, what are our family goals? Where have we been as a family? Where are we today? Where do we want to be? So it's a phenomenal tool to use interrelationally as well,
Oh,
or
I
even with
love
therapy.
Well, I love that. That is just so fascinating to me. And now you back to referring to your accident a little. You had just released your book, The Merge, last summer within days. And so
Yeah.
you haven't had a lot of opportunity to talk about it as you've been going through the other things. But now you said actually that book was very helpful to you, even though you had primarily written it for newlyweds and you're not really a newlywed anymore. But tell us about the merge. Tell us how it helped you and what's in it and how it'll help other couples.
Yeah, we have a running joke in our family, which is don't write about it if you don't want to live it. But I kind of thought I had gotten around that little loophole by, writing about, hey, how do you blend differences in your marriage and, really, kind of become a team together. Joey and I were both in our 30s when we got married, and we were both pretty independent people. And then all of a sudden you're having to, fuse together all of these things. And it was like, oh my gosh, who is this person? And so I thought I'd kind of gotten around it, but I hadn't. And really, this accident was a whole new level of the merge. And I think, that's one of the things I like about the book is that, it's not just for newlyweds. It really is something that you can use in every season of your marriage because there's different merge points. That newlywed season absolutely is one, but maybe it is a crisis like what Joey and I faced. Maybe it's having a kid. Maybe it's, okay, now we're empty nesters. What do we do? Who are we again as a couple? Maybe we're facing a fight, like whatever is going on. There are so many merge moments that happen. And I'm so thankful. It was honestly, as an author, it was a little disappointing to be like, I can't do anything on my book, but I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that my focus and everything needed to be on my family in that season. And I really think in a lot of ways, God gave that to me as a gift because when I was sitting there going, I don't even know what to do right now in our relationship. And my husband, who has been one person for 8 years, he suffered a traumatic brain injury, now is fighting to become that person again, but isn't. And it felt like we were having to relearn how to be in relationship with each other. And it was like, what do we do? And I felt like God was like, Kari, you wrote the plan. Like you have the plan. And so it actually ended up being an incredible blessing for our marriage because we were able to go say, okay, let's rework through these steps again. And it worked. It really did help us go, okay, we're not just stuck. We don't have to stay where we are. We can figure this out together. We can become a team again. And I'm immensely thankful that Joey's brain continues to heal and he really is more and more himself every day. But I think for us, it was like God was like, you wrote the plan. Like I gave that to you for you to use. And so I'm really thankful for that. And yeah, it's a fun book. It's a short book. It's also extremely practical if you're seeing a theme. It has date nights built in. It has questions. It even has a map of, okay, how do we fill this out as a couple and really have a plan in place for what we're going to do to move forward so that we're not stuck. Because again, to me, it's like, it's wonderful to learn. It's another thing to apply. Change happens when we apply what we learn. And so that's really what I tried to do in that book was to say, learn something powerful, put it right into action.
Well,
and I can say it works for newlyweds, it works during crisis. So, and parenting.
Tell us about it a little more. You practically give us a few of your steps. Tell us and what they are and how they're applicable.
Yeah. So one of my favorite ones is really how do we what stopping the merge NATO. And for any of you that have seen Sharknado, you can kind of see where I was going with that. But really, I don't know about y'all, but I know for Joey and I, we have found ourselves again and again and again having the same conversation in 1,000 different ways, that same argument. And it doesn't matter how it started, but somehow we still end up in that same cycle, doing the same things, treating each other the same way. And it's really, okay, how we need to identify that process. Why does it start? What happens when we're spinning? And what can we do to stop it? And then going a step further, how can we prevent it? What is that early warning detection system that we need to put in place so that when we see that merge NATO coming out of our living room or our kitchen, we can say, whoa, 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 we don't need to get sucked up in. Exactly. We can stop it before it starts and we can exit this a different way where we both feel understood and heard and maybe even understand why the other person was responding the way that they were and why we responded the way we did. And that gives us the opportunity to choose to do something different. And so that's one of them. Another one that I love is making mountains shrink, because man, whether it is a life-changing car accident or it's just that middle of the night feeding, or kids going off to college, it doesn't matter what it is. We need to know that our spouse is going to go up hills with us, that we don't need to be on our own, that they really are going to put their hand on our shoulder and say, I'm with you. I'm not going anywhere. And actually, there's an incredible study that was done at the University of Virginia where they pulled students to the side that were connected, whether it was a roommate or a friend or a significant other, and they had them look at this tall hill that was in the middle of campus, and they put a 50-pound backpack on one of them, and they said, okay, tell me how high you think the hill is and how much effort it's going to take to climb. And every single time that they did that, the student overshot how hard it was going to be and how high the hill was. Well, then they had their friend put on a pack, and their friend put their hand on their shoulder. And they again said, okay, tell me how high it is and how hard it's going to be to climb. And every single time, how hard it was going to be and how high the hill was shrank. And that's really the thing, is we want to know that our spouse is going to put on a pack and go up the mountain with us, because it really does make the mountain smaller when we're not having to do it on our own. And so it's, how can we understand that and then practically do it, and what's blocking us from being able to do that with our spouse?
Yeah. That just sounds really heartwarming. And I'm sure our merge champions like me are thinking in their head of times, for anyone who's been married any length of times where they did do that, or where they did, my husband forgot his wallet this morning, and I jumped in the car and raced and met him at the gas station and got him his wallet, because that's what you do when you're with your spouse. And that's, those are the things that you do. And I just love that the merge, and I really hope that our marriage champions will check out that book, since God's just been waiting for the perfect time for it to really burst out, as you rightfully prioritized your family in this season of crisis. So I really hope that. And you do have one more resource that I do want to make sure I mention for our marriage champions, because somebody needs to know that you also wrote the first 10 days of healing to inspire those with a domestic violence situation. And that's there on the website too, because someone needs to know about that resource.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm working on more resources related to domestic violence, but that one is really holds a special place in my heart, because it's really, when someone gets out, what do you do? How do you even start to move forward? And that's really kind of what I tried to put in there, are 10 healing tools. And whether they do it over 10 days or 10 years or 10 weeks, the goal is really to say, hey, what are those small, positive, specific steps that they can take to begin to move forward to heal? And there are things that I did that really significantly helped me on my journey, and have helped others too.
Of course. And you are a picture of exactly how God's redemption and restoration has worked so beautifully and gives so many people so much hope. So thank you, Kari, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. What an honor.
Oh, well, and always, marriage champions, if you'd like more information about Kari's work with strong families, you can find us at marriageinitiative.org.